shortest man in the world. Bishop Robert McElroy is going to share something from an Episcopal perspective, and give him a warm welcome, please.
I want to thank your Kent and all of the committee who worked to put together this evening. I want to thank all of you for being here. Some months ago, that Dr. Ram, who you saw in this film, was here in this room giving a presentation. And I talked to him afterwards, and he shared with me the experience he had in approaching Pope Francis on this question. He's a very noted scientist. He's one of the world's leading authorities on these issues. And he's not Catholic. He's on the Pontifical Academy of Science. I figured he must be Catholic. He's not Catholic. And I said, well, why are you on the Pontifical Academy of Science then? And he said, because I believe that the Catholic Church has one of the most influential ways of reaching people across the world with the message that they need to hear, that all of us need to hear and take into our hearts. And he said, that's why I'm on the Pontifical Academy of Science. He said, and that's why he was here that day. And that's why you're here today. Because the church is meant to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is the salvation of every man and woman and child. In the recognition that God has created everything that is and brought it into being as gift to us, so that we are stewards, not masters, but stewards. And that's an important difference. Because many times people will cite from the scriptures and say, we are meant to be the masters of creation. That's not true. God is the Lord of creation. We are stewards of creation. It has been gifted to us in our care to pass on to every generation as a blessing and a grace, to leave in better condition than when we found it. And think what that means for us, with all of the perils that are there to the environment in which we live. Yet we have a real opportunity to make a world better than when we found it by our actions in this generation, in this moment in our history. Because we know the steps we have to take. We know the pathway that leads toward the sustenance of what Pope Francis calls our home, our common home. And the pathway is not difficult. Sometimes people say, oh, there are these immense sacrifices that have to be made. Not true. Are there sacrifices? Yes. But we are lucky that we live in an age in which technology, while producing some of the great crises we face for our environment, has also created opportunities for cleansing the earth, for enriching the earth, for enlivening the earth once again. And it falls to us as people of faith to understand that is a sacred mission given to us by God. God has given us this mission, and God has given us the pathway to accomplish that mission. And wouldn't it be a great thing at the end of our lives on this earth, we could say that one of the great legacies we leave behind is an earth which has been enriched by our generation, made more beautiful and grace-filled, that we hand on to successive generations. All of this is possible. But we have to work together. We have to seek the truth. And I have to say this on this question of climate change. I travel a good deal to different parts of the world. In virtually no other country in the world is there massive denial of climate change. Nowhere. It's here. because of interests, economic interests, which support an industry meant to deny climate change. So we have to know that's a reality. That doesn't mean that everyone who denies climate change is involved in that. Because people believe so much of what they hear on social media. But we have to understand that we are really the only country in the world in which this issue is so alive and so divisive. But even with that, we're at a point now where the trajectory is laid out, particularly here in California, for us to be able to make a difference in important ways. You know, when the diocese began, and I take no credit for this, it was largely in place before I got here, the program of solar power in our parish plants. When I was growing up, I always assumed solar power would need tax incentives to make it work. And even then, it would not be economical. Well, it has come a long way. So that when our parishes and the parish finance councils saw the numbers on solar power for our parishes, they said, we need to do this not only because it's the right thing, but because it's the financial thing. We're at that point in our nation. And so I encourage you all to be educators in the way pathways forward. That's important. And in the science and in the reality, that's very important to witness to that. But more important than that is witnessing to this vision that Pope Francis has laid out in Laudato Si, that we are here on this earth, graced to be here, with this beautiful home that God has given to us. And particularly here in San Diego, such a beautiful part of the world God has given to us. And that we are called to be architects of enhancing that beauty in the years to come. And that is the work of God we all seek to take upon ourselves. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for the commitments you have made. Thanks for all that you do. And I hope and pray that through our efforts, we can help be part of the transformative work of the church in every nation, being good stewards of this great gift of the common home which our God has given to us. Thank you.
There's a microphone over here with a camera on it. Does anyone have the audacity to ask a question of Bishop Robert? If so, step to the microphone. Should I go first?
Bishop, do you fly first class?
There's a funny story on that. I will tell you this story. I fly a lot, okay? And I always fly in United. And the reason is I usually get on with my little suitcase so I don't have to check in the bag, because I'm usually not gone for a long time. So it's really important for me to be able to get that on and not have it put off, because a couple times I've had it where stuff got broken. So anyway, on United, because I fly so much, occasionally they do bump me up to first class. So one day last year, I was flying to San Francisco, which is where I grew up, for Christmas. I had said the masses. I was leaving. It was an afternoon flight to San Francisco. So I get on, and I don't like it when they bump me up. Well, I don't like when they bump me up here in San Diego. Anyway, but I don't. So they bump me up, but you have no choice. It's automatic computer does it. So I go sit in my seat, and people are fine on it's a full plane. And so it's a slow line, you know, and so I'm sitting there trying to look away. The line is stopped, and some woman says to me, "Don't I know you?" And I look at her, and I didn't know who she was, but I felt pretty sure that she was a nun. So I said, "Well, I don't know." And she said, "Are you Bishop McElroy?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am." Well, hello. You know, so then she moves to the back. Then because she was flying standby. They kicked her off. Yeah. So she's coming up the aisle then alone at that point. She stops by me and says very loudly, "Bishop McElroy, thanks for all you do for the poor." So then I was really so I don't pay to travel first class for the case.
Yeah. Well, you've used up all your time, Bishop.
Okay.